Let's go.
Welcome to The Integrative Edge, your go-to podcast for fresh perspectives on holistic health and functional movement. Join us as we explore innovative ways to optimize your health naturally and sustainably.
I'm Kelly Demers, founder of the Integrative Wellness Coalition and the owner of True North Performance.
I'm Lindsay Seefeld, doctor of physical therapy and owner and operator of Uplifted Oncology Rehab.
I'm Dr. Kimberly Klimek, licensed pharmacist and owner of Innate Healing and Performance.
You can find the show on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe so you never miss an episode.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Integrative Edge, where we explore innovative ways to optimize your health naturally and sustainably. I'm Kelly Demers, and as always, joined by my two incredible co-hosts, Dr. Lindsay Seefeld and Dr. Kim Klimek. Today, we are tackling a topic that every single one of us will face at some point, and that is setbacks. Setbacks can come in many forms: an injury, a chronic illness, a business, or a personal challenge. But one of the things that remain the same is they really have a tendency to test us. They push us to our limits and sometimes make us question everything. But setbacks don't have to define us. It's how we respond to them that matters. So today we're going to break down strategies, some real life strategies to help you work through setbacks, stay motivated, keep your mindset strong, and we'll kick this off. I want to hear from both of you. What have setbacks taught you, and what advice would you give, or advice do you have for those that maybe are currently in the thick of it?
Yeah. I mean, for me, going through, like you said, everybody goes through setbacks in their life, and, it's just part of life. And I think the biggest thing, I think that I personally have learned myself is you've got to cultivate kind of that hope and that resilience. Like, things are going to change for you. This is not where you need to stay. And so I think in all of my setbacks, it's like there's going to be light at the end of the tunnel. Like, we're going to be able to move forward and move on.
Oh, I definitely resonate with that for sure. It's like a phrase I kind of use with clients a lot is that, like, there's a rainbow, at the end of this, but just we still have to go through a little bit of struggles generally in our journey, in our path, and that does create resilience in our bodies, and so it's certainly part of the journey.
Mm-hmm. I would echo those. I think one of the things that setbacks has taught me is that it's not the end of the world. It's not, this too shall pass, and it's very cliche, but it is true. This too shall pass, and it is just a moment in time. So let's start with the big picture. We all know that setbacks are a big part of life. No matter how disciplined or how prepared we are, things don't always go according to plan. So let me throw this to you both. Why do you think setbacks hit us so hard emotionally and physically? And what is it about these moments that make them feel so overwhelming?
Well, I think, first off, those setbacks, it's not according to your plan, right? Like, in a perfect world, like, everything is going to go smooth sailing. And then when you get a wrench thrown in, like something extremely devastating, it just shakes up your whole world. You're like left with the thought of, okay, now what? I know in my profession, as a physical therapist, I have seen, many pretty outstanding events for patients. I used to work in a inpatient neuro center. And so we're talking, I'm working with patients that, just had a spinal cord injury. So now that they lost complete use of their legs, I've seen individuals, massive strokes where they can't use a side of their body, traumatic brain injuries where they literally had to take out a piece of their brain. So, these are pretty profound impacts on these individuals. And, I definitely see with all of them, and I'm sure you've all heard of this, the stages of grief, right? Mm-hmm. We all kind of go through those different stages of grief, and it's okay to bounce up and down through all of them. The first one is denial. A lot of those patients will kind of be in shock and disbelief, like they don't believe that this has even happened to them. Right. And then the next step is anger. And this is where, a lot of them will say, like, they just they have this mentality, why me? Life is not fair. Like, why is this happening to me? Bargaining is the third one. And this is where people really seek negotiation. They try to make deals. And the statement is, if only, I think in this stage, like, if only I did X, Y, and Z, maybe this wouldn't have happened. The fourth is depression, where, they're very down and sad, withdrawal, regret. And then the last stage is acceptance, where they can actually move forward.
Yeah, those are just like amazing like analogies and the stages that you're going through. But for me, it's like, shifting a little bit of the mindset from frustration to a little bit more self-grace and self-compassion as you learn from mistakes and move forward. And, how that resonates to many people's like health journey is definitely the fact that healing is not linear. Like there are all these like cute little graphs on Instagram, I feel like lately, like here's the healing journey is not linear. And then it's like this graph with like all these jagged edges, to the top of the mountain. And it's so true, because at any point, like we can totally have this plan in place. And then we're like, I have my eye on the prize. This is the straight and narrow path to it. But like, there's always going to be these little like pebbles in the road, or I don't know, I'm using a triathlon analogy where you get a flat tire along the way and you got to fix it. But you can either, like for me, it's like a lot of it's an attitude choice and an adjustment.
Sure.
Like you can either just feel, extremely frustrated, down with yourself. A lot of negativity can, creep into the mind, and you have to be able to shift that mindset. And part of dealing with setbacks is actually allowing yourself to grow in that mindset to be able to give yourself grace and, accept that the journey is not going to be completely perfect along the way.
That is such an important point. Setbacks feel so personal because I think we are wired to see our journey as very linear. Like Kim said, we start at one point, we know we've got our eye on the prize, and a setback, like a diagnosis, man, it can really cause you to just take a knee, and that's okay. It's time to pause. Pause doesn't mean stop, right? It just means we need to recognize it for what it is. I think when people when they set a goal or they have their eye on the prize, so many times people try to avoid setbacks, and it's really not avoiding. It's not trying to avoid setbacks that make us more resilient. It's learning how to navigate them when they happen. We know they're going to happen. It is our response to them and understanding that it is one chapter, it is one section of our life. It is not the entire story. And it is up to us to control our mindset and really learn to navigate those. When something does go wrong, I think our brains naturally focus on what the things that we can't do. You hit on a little bit why is this happening to me? That's kind of where we go first, right? So shifting our focus from what we can't do to what we can control is one of the most powerful ways that I can think to move forward. It's just, what is the next best step? So let me ask you, when you're working with clients, Kim and Lindsay, when you're working with clients, whether physical or otherwise, how do you help them shift their mindset to focus on what they can do instead of what they can't?
Yeah, I know for me, it's just sitting down with them and having that conversation. Okay, this is where you're at today. And I'm all about, just setting up those little goals. Okay, so this is where you are today. This is where I want to head, and working together, having that discussion with your patient on, the goals that they have, and then having a coach, I think is so important, because the coach can help give you a little direction on which way to go. So I think it's all about just doing those little steps along the way and giving them encouragement. Like you said, it's not linear, right? You're going to have up and downs. And I think so many times with patients, you start with that track and you're doing well, and then they have another setback. Mm-hmm. But it's about okay, it's okay where you're at right now. We're just going to pick up right here, and we're just going to keep moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of us in our line of work, we are definitely a little bit of mini therapists, and definitely a lot of us are coaches through this process. And for me, in my line of work, I definitely focus a lot on micro wins and a lot of the small wins with clients, and just say, hey, well, you're focusing so much on this still this like large symptom or this problem, but look at all these small wins we just had along the way. And we're definitely making progress here. And like the body absolutely takes time to heal. And I always remind that, or I always tell my clients to remember that, because it's like your body took years to even get to this point where you're sort of like expressing or manifesting all these symptoms. But it was just kind of like that slow progression over time. And in the healing journey, in the process, it's going to take a lot of time as well too. I mean, yes, there's like certain things that you're going to experience that may be a little bit more quicker in terms of like the wins, but it is absolutely like walking them through some of the expectations and a timeline of when they can start to feel better, when we need to, man, I love the word adapt or pivot. I'm like, all right, this isn't working for you. You're not like an exact patient or a client that is like what I learned in a textbook in school, right? Like 80% of people might respond appropriately to this type of protocol or this, supplement or recommendation or whatever it is. Then you still have your small percentage of people that are, a little bit more not clear-cut cases, a little bit more difficult cases, and that's okay. I just need some feedback and communication, and then we'll, progress and or pivot, I should say, and adapt, and we'll figure out different strategies for you. But, that comes with communication, working with your clients and things like that.
Sure. Even when things don't go according to plan, again, going back to there's always something that we can do, right? So if we're injured, if you're injured, maybe it's time to focus on nutrition or mobility or stress management or getting quality sleep. If you're dealing with a chronic illness, maybe it's time to talk about optimizing recovery and sleep, getting back into, we talked a little bit about faith practices, whatever those are, new ways to find a way to move forward. Kim, you hit on setting tiny, achievable goals, and I think this one is so big. One of the biggest reasons people struggle with setbacks is they're so focused on where they are versus where they want to be. And instead of focusing on the progress, and you've talked about this, it's kind of that gap in the gain. There's a book called The Gap in the Gain, and it really talks about people are so focused on where they want to be that they forget how far they've come. So when you run into that, how do you help someone, and I know you touched on this a little bit, but how do you help someone set small, realistic goals that keep them moving forward, even when they feel like they've taken a step backwards?
Yeah, I think for me, I always talk about this is you have to focus on what you can do today, right? Like we have a large goal ahead, but what kind of little things can we do today to change? And it's not about there's so many different things like Kim had mentioned, like we got to try, there's a bunch of different things. It doesn't happen instantaneously. So what kind of maybe one or two things can we focus on today to help get towards that larger goal? So I think that it creates it's easy to manage when you break it off like that. So I'm like, nope, I'll stop patients literally. I'll say, okay, no, we need to focus on what we can do today, right now.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, could not agree more with that statement for sure. And then I'll just kind of give them like, okay, give me 2 bullet points today that we're going to focus on here and now, and where do we want to be in a week from now? Maybe 1 or 2 more bullet points, but we're not going to do the whole 20, whole 20 bullet points all in one day for sure. And part of the things I advise for them as well is to slow down and listen to their body, and it's okay. Like coping with setbacks, like sometimes you actually just need to stop and reset and just take a day or 2 off. Like I totally tell clients, I'm like, hey, whatever, you missed your supplements for the day or whatever, you didn't, meet your nutrition goals for the day. Like it's not the end of the world. It's not going to completely derail your whole progress, because I've done even just like little like liver cleanses and stuff and things like that with people. And it's like, okay, if you don't follow this protocol 100%, like it's still not, that doesn't mean that you're not benefiting from what we're doing here, and just making sure that you slow down and listen to your body too, because everybody's response is going to be different.
Yeah, I love that. Small wins build momentum, and momentum builds confidence. And sometimes the goal isn't to get back to where you were right away, right? It is just about taking the next small, best step forward. Those little daily actions that really help rebuild trust in yourself and in your body. We talked a little bit about this before. I want to come back to it. It's about mindset, because honestly, I think that is everything. We can have the best plan in the world, but if our mindset isn't in the right place, setbacks can break us. So let me ask you both, what are some of the most effective mindset shifts you've seen people make when it comes to overcoming setbacks?
I think it's I think maybe you both have heard this saying, like you are what you attract, and so you or what you think about the most. So I think you have to cultivate that positivity, that hope that things are going to get better, things are going to change. Because if you're constantly dwelling on like, oh, what's not working, what's lacking in your life, guess what? You're going to attract more of that. So it's so important to shift your mindset to think more positive, and hopeful, and that's what's going to propel you forward.
Yep, for sure. I say like positive self-talk. Say good things to yourself.
Yes.
Say it in your mind. Write it on a Post-it note. Put it on your mirror. Whatever you got to do. Because if you're saying negative thoughts to yourself on a constant basis, exactly, what are you attracting? You're attracting negative energy. And then, there's that little saying like comparison is a thief of joy, right?
Sure.
Like,
Yes.
For sure.
we all have different genetics and environmental exposures and all these different things I talk to clients about like in their health journey. And Lindsay, when you were talking about it earlier, I was like, raise my hand when I was the person who was like, why me? Why did all this like trauma and this medical trauma happen to me? And when I was in my 20s, I was dealing with some very traumatic like health issues. And I'm like, oh my gosh, everybody in their 20s in college is out eating pizza and having fun and going to parties and doing all these like things that you do when you're young and you have a lot of vibrancy and energy. And for me, it was completely the opposite. I spent my days going from medical appointment to medical appointment. So, and I had a lot of negative thoughts about myself during that time. And so it's really wild and amazing to see like that transformation in yourself and how your mindset can actually truly shift. And wow, what an amazing difference it can really make in your actual, just like the energy that you cultivate in your body to be able to heal.
I think one of the most powerful shifts is going from, and you both talked about this, why is this happening to me, to what am I learning from this experience? Whether you believe this or not, I think there's a preordained journey that we are all on to some degree. I think we are where we are meant to be in our life. I think the setbacks were given to us because of something, right? We were given them to help somebody learn from it. We were given them to be an example. Something put those setbacks in our path, specifically in our path. They force us to slow down. They force us to reassess. But sometimes we can come back even stronger than we were previously. You're going to say something?
Oh, I was just going to say like exactly that. Like, in my life, I always use this story. This was such a setback in my life. But, the year I graduated, I had so much like chaos in my life. I graduated, I got married, I took my boards, and my grandma passed away. And it was just an insane, just whirlwind. And I remember, with my boards, it was such a stressful time. And I remember I decided to push it off, and I wanted to spend more time with my grandma at that point. And I'm like, oh, why is this not happening? And then after she passed away, I realized that the reason why things were not falling into place is because I needed to be with her at that point. So sometimes you wonder, like, why is this happening to me? Like, why am I in this terrible situation? But when you get through it and sometimes you look back, you're like, oh my gosh, like God really taught me something pretty amazing here.
Right.
And you didn't see it.
Yep.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's the total, like, that is exactly like how I describe my own like medical journey too. I'm just like, man, I just had to go through it. I had to go through the deep shit. Sorry.
Yeah.
For my French, but I just had to go through that to be able to come out and be able to teach people about it, apparently.
Yeah.
And that's my path and my journey, and that's my why. And that was like God's plan for me. So
Yeah.
Absolutely. It is interesting to see everybody's journey and how it culminated. I think one of the important things is when you're in it, I wish there was a silver bullet to say, here's how you do it. You just shift your mindset and it's going to be great, right? Like when you're going through it, it doesn't work like that. You ugly cry, you punch the air, do whatever you do, right?
Oh my gosh,
you
so much ugly crying.
Like Lindsay had hit on it already, like those stages of grief, those are they are real, man. Life is messy. And sometimes these setbacks cause you to really, they will bring you to your knees. And it's in those moments where you really have to just stop. It doesn't mean that it is the end of your story. It is one chapter. It is not your whole story. And so one of the things that I do is like, if I were to tell my 11-year-old self, well, that was the end of it for you. It's not such an inspiring story. But what are some of those things? And I think just, again, shifting your mindset, it takes time though. And I think giving yourself, we all hit on this a little bit, giving yourself grace to pull out of those moments. You need time to go through those stages of grief when you're given a setback, depending on the severity. But you are where you're meant to be. And I believe that so firmly.
Yeah, I had posted something a little while back on my Instagram. It's just like those scars, they shape you, and they're just a reminder of like how strong you really are.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I know we had talked about strategies, and one of the things that I think, Lindsay, if you wouldn't mind sharing, is something that you go over with your patients. I don't want to be on camera for this.
Yeah, I came across this poem, many, many years ago. And, like I had mentioned earlier, I work with a lot of, terminally ill patients and patients that have major setbacks. And I share this with them, to really help, inspire them and to help them to keep pushing forward. So I'm going to share this with you. The poem is called "It's in the Valleys I Grow" by Jane Eggleston. Sometimes life seems hard to bear, full of sorrow, trouble, and woe. It's then I have to remember that it's in the valleys I grow. If I always stayed on the mountaintop and never experienced pain, I would never appreciate God's love and would be living in vain. I have so much to learn, and my growth is very slow. Sometimes I need the mountaintops, but it's in the valleys I grow. I don't always understand why things happen as they do, but I am very sure of one thing: my Lord will see me through. My little valleys are nothing when I picture Christ on the cross. He went through the valleys of death. His victory was Satan's loss. Forgive me, Lord, for complaining when I'm feeling so very low. Just give me a gentle reminder that it's in the valleys I grow. Continue to strengthen me, Lord, and use my life each day to share your love with others and help them find their way. Thank you for the valleys, Lord, for this one thing I know for sure. The mountaintops are glorious, but it's in the valleys I grow.
Ugh. Need a pause after that one. Gosh, what a powerful, powerful poem. It's hard to follow that. To close, kind of to wrap, put a bow on this, setbacks don't mean stop. They just mean adjust. And if you're listening to this and you're going through something right now, whether it's an injury or a medical challenge or something else entirely, just know that this is really one chapter in your life. It is not your whole story. Before we fully close out, I want to leave everyone with a few takeaways. Do we want to just go around and kind of recap? One or two key takeaways that you'd give listeners today?
I think, if you're going through something very challenging and difficult, I think the biggest thing is just keep that positive mentality, keep that resilience, keep that hope, center yourself with people that are going to push you forward and, just keep pushing forward.
Yeah. And I just want to just remind people that like true healing takes time, like true deep healing takes time. And I encourage you to use some of the strategies we talked about here today to support your long-term progress. And kind of what Lindsay said here too, is just making sure that you have, community and support with you throughout this process. And because that can really help you overcome some of these obstacles.
So controlling what you can, setting those tiny achievable goals, reframing setbacks as opportunities for growth, surrounding yourself through surrounding yourself with support. If you are dealing with a setback right now, I want to challenge you. What's one small thing that you can do today that moves you in the right direction? It doesn't have to be huge, just something, one step, one action. That's how you start building momentum again. Any final thoughts before we sign off?
No.
All right. That is it for today on the Integrative Edge. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. If you're enjoying the podcast, please leave us a review, subscribe. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you next time.